Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to a True Talk Tuesday, the weekly show in which I give you the real deal on basically anything that has to do with Central Florida lately. Before, we have been really hitting real estate and understanding real estate, and we've kind of gotten into also looking at the business owners that make our market what it is, right? Because if our local businesses are doing well, then our local economy is doing well. So we've kind of gotten to look at a couple of different local businesses. I am bringing back some more people, so hold your horses. For those of you, I've had a few of you send me suggestions, and I love that. Like, you've got a business owner that you absolutely love here locally, and you would love for me to get to know them and talk to them. I would like to know that. So thank you for those of you that have been sending me direct messages. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Shalisa. I am a real estate agent, realtor with S&D Real Estate Services here in Central Florida. I specialize in first-time homebuyers. I also specialize in people who are sizing down because they're becoming empty nesters, because I am an empty nester. So I understand what that looks like. I specialize in first-time homebuyers, though, because before I was a real estate agent, before I became the person you see on the screen, I taught high school for many years, and so my high school students are now buying their first homes, and I have gotten to, in June, I closed on two of those. Two former students bought houses in June, so congratulations to them again, and that was so stinking excited to be on that. So tonight, what I thought I would do is, it's been a while since we've gone over the home buying process, right? I want to make sure, with Hometown Heroes being available, with the Dream Builders program being now rolled out, like, I want you to have the information you need in order to start buying that home or start that journey if you need be, right? First of all, you see a QR code every single time I go live up in the, I think for you guys it would be the top left-hand corner. That actually goes to my contact information. And in my contact information, there's a link at the very top that says, "Are you ready?" And it is a quiz that you can go question by question. It's just for you, right? It'll let you know whether or not you are ready to buy a home and where you are in that. Now, it does send me an email with your score. It just sends me the email. It goes directly to me. It doesn't go to any database. It goes to my email. And I have Google Docs, nothing big, nothing fancy, right? But I got Google Docs that has a little template that says, okay, if you reach that score, here's the resources I need you to have. And I will send you the resources that are listed there. All right. So that way you can continue on your home buying journey. If you are ready, then I will probably give you a call. I'll be like, hey, let's talk. Let's see where you are. All right. So if you're interested on whether or not you're ready to buy a home, by all means, scan that little QR code right up there and you can take that quiz. If not, it's okay. It's there for you. All right. So buying a home, I get a lot of questions. I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, so I've heard it all. Don't think for a hot moment that I'm going to judge you on a question you think might be stupid. All right. There are no stupid questions, right? There might be a stupid answer. Sometimes I give answers and I'm like, man, that really is the answer. And that is the dumbest thing in the world. Okay. All right. But for the most part, I've been asked quite a bit of questions. So we're going to go over tonight the home buying process. What do you need? What does it look like in reality? Because we see a lot of TikTok, we see a lot of Instagram, and they're like, oh, you can buy a house with no cash. No. No. All right. Not here, at least. If there is a program and one of my lenders knows about it, like, y'all need to be giving me some information, all right? Because I got people out here that need to get into these homes. So let's talk about what it actually looks like. Hey, Patsy, how are you? Say hello if you're there. I see we have quite a few viewers tonight, so say hello in the comments and I will give you a shout out. But first and foremost, what I ask my buyers when we sit down and we're doing a buyer consult, one of the things that I ask is, first, do you have any money saved up? And the reason I ask this is even if we're looking at the cheaper end of homes, hey, Beth, if we're looking at the cheaper end of homes, you're still going to come out of pocket with about $3,500, right? Even if I can get a bunch of things paid for you, right? We can find you down payment assistance. You're still going to need about $3,500. All right. And we'll break that down in just a minute. So I ask you, how much money do you have saved up? Okay. You've got a little bit saved up. That's cool. That's cool. Do you know your credit score? Okay. Credit scores. Everybody asks, is there anything for crappy credit? Well, there is. It's a recent program. I do have some buyers going through that right now, not because they have crappy credit, but because of other factors that go into lending. Like the factors that go into lending, by the way, it's not just your credit score, right? They're looking for debt to income. Debt to income is how much money do you make versus how much is going out each month, right? And they want to see that it's less than 36%, less than 36% of your income is going out the door. I know that's hard, right? So we got to know how much debt do we have? How much income do we have coming in? All right. So these are the questions that I would ask you. We also want to know things like, how long have you been on the job? Right? It's cool if you just change jobs. I've got a buyer that is in restaurant management, right? He's done that for years. Because of changes in restaurant management and changes in ownership in a restaurant, he lost his job, right? So he went and found another restaurant management job. In traditional lending, if you lose your job and you go to a different industry entirely, a 2-year clock starts all over again. They want to see that you've been in the same industry for about 2 years. Can that be waived? Yes. All of this stuff is negotiable. But for the baseline, for an easy slam dunk, what we're going to be looking for is a good credit score, right? Around, I won't say around 700. We can deal with stuff around 700. You've been on the job for at least 2 years, right? Your debt to income is less than 36%. Okay. And you have at least $3,500 saved up. If you've gotten all of that, then you are ready to go to the next step. And the next step, if I've looked at all this and we're like, oh, we're good, then I'm going to ask you, are you working with a lender? Do you have a lender that you like? If you don't have a lender that you like, then let me refer you to one, right? I have a couple of different lenders. I always run into new lenders and they have different programs. Each lender might have access to a different bank that has a special program. I've got lenders over at South State that have 100% financing. That means no down payment, right? So if you don't have down payment, I could send you over there and see if you could get qualified, right? I've got lenders that have access to Dream Builder, so they can run you through Dream Builder. So lenders have different programs for you. So that's one of the reasons why I say it's important for you to talk to a realtor first. We work with all these people. They try to get our business. They come to our open houses. They go to our networking, right? They give us flyers. Matter of fact, I think I have one somewhere around here. Like, they give us flyers of all the new programs, right? You can go to this one lender and not know. You might think that they have access to all the programs. They do not. They do not. So I say, even if you're not working with me, find yourself a realtor that you trust. And if you don't have a lender that you're already working with, say you've got a credit union and they're offering you great stuff, right? Cool beans, work with the credit union. But if you don't, ask the realtor. The realtor works with a bunch of lenders and they would know what different programs those lenders have access to. So definitely pick your realtor and then your lender. Right? We're going to run you through lending. We're going to get you through that part of it. We're going to get you pre-approved. Now, pre-approval, here's one of the things that most first-time home buyers think. Once they think, oh, we're pre-approved, it's done. I'm guaranteed this loan. And that is not the case. Once you get a pre-approval, what it means is that they're pretty sure they can get you this loan. They're pretty sure they can get you this loan. Everything meets the criteria to get you that loan, right? But when we go under contract, then underwriting is going to step in on the lending side, and they're going to start really getting into your numbers. It feels very invasive. It really does. But they're going to look at your bank accounts, right? They're going to look at your credit score. They're going to look at your credit history. They're going to look at your longest account that you've had. How many times were you late on that? They're going to look at everything, right? And they're going to pull your credit again. And they're going to see, hey, what's on that credit? What's a red flag? We shouldn't give this loan to them, right? So pre-approval means that it looks good that you're going to get the loan, but it's not a guarantee, all right? But once we get that pre-approval, what we get a chance to do is now I can go, hey, we're going to go and look at houses. Now, by the way, before we can go look at any houses, we have to get you to sign something called a buyer's broker's agreement. I think that whole document requires its own episode, its own live, because the buyer's broker's agreement is about 2 pages, 2 or 3 pages, 3 pages. And it goes over what my responsibilities are to you and what your responsibilities are to me. And it sets out very clearly, this is what I'm going to get paid. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is the type of houses we're going to look for. This is how long we're working together. There's a lot that goes into it. That's why I said I think it deserves its own episode. But before we can go look at a house, we have to have 2 things. We need that buyer's broker's agreement signed, and we need a pre-approval. Now, I know, I hear it. Why did some realtors let you go look at a house without a pre-approval? I don't know. I don't know why they do that. I'm not a fan of it. Have I done it? Yeah, I've done it before. Why? Because I knew the person well, and I knew that they could get a pre-approval. So I went and took them to go see a house, right? But I prefer not to do that. And the reason why realtors prefer not to do that, and we prefer you to get that pre-approval before we even show you a house. And I know it's just absolutely ridiculous, right? You're like, I see this house. I'm going through the process. Why can't I go see this house? Because that process might show that $300,000 home that you're looking at isn't something that you can afford right now, right? You need a $250,000 home. And now I've shown you a home that you can't have, and I'm breaking your heart. And I'm sorry, my heart's too soft for that. My heart is just way too soft for that. So I'm not going to show you a house without knowing what your pre-approval is, right? Because once we get your pre-approval, we'll know what your budget is. You'll have, like estimated numbers of this is your payment and all that good jazz. So we have an idea of what we can go look at. There is a budget there. So I can stay within budget, and I'm not showing you things that you can't afford, right? Because that's horrible. But I'm also not showing you bottom of the barrel stuff either, because you can afford more. So it's important that we get that pre-approval. Once we get the buyer's broker's agreement signed, we've gotten your pre-approval, and we're looking for houses. What I do, and a lot of other agents do, is we'll set you up on something called an auto email. And we will go into our little MLS system, little listing system, and we'll say, okay, here's the criteria for this buyer, right? Here's all the criteria for the buyer. This is the kind of house they're looking for. And every morning or every other morning, I want the email to be sent to them of all the new listings, right? You'd get that email, and you'd be able to look through the listings that came up overnight, right? And you can favorite them. And then I get notified, oh, they like this house. I'll message you. When's a good time for us to go look at that house? All right. So we're working the system. We're looking back and forth. I'm sending you houses. You might be sending me houses on Zillow that might not have been in my MLS, right? That's possible. So you might be sending me houses and you're like, hey, I really like this. So we're going to go and we're going to schedule a time to go see the houses. We might only go see one in the evening because that's all the time you have. We might go see 2 or 3 in the evening. We might go and make it a whole Saturday. I've done that before. We made it a whole Saturday and saw like 7 houses in one day. That was crazy. I don't like it because I think they all start to blur together at one point. But we did it by the end of the Saturday, they found a house that they liked and we put an offer in on it. They went under contract, right? So the whole purpose of looking at the houses is this something you want? And if this is something you want, then let's talk about putting an offer in. All right. And the offer is written on a contract. I need you to understand this. When you tell me submit a written offer, I'm going to prep a contract. Okay. It's a contract. I'm going to prep it. I'm going to put all the stuff in it. I'm going to send it off to the listing agent and I'm going to say, hey, present this to your sellers. Once those sellers initial and sign everywhere they need to, you're under contract. That written offer is the contract. Okay. So it's not, oh, I've had people ask me, can I put in an offer and then can I go put an offer in on that other house? Nay, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. You have to wait until your offer is either accepted or rejected, right? Before you can go and move on. So our offer has been accepted. We found the perfect house. Our offer got accepted. What's next? All right, here's where that $3,500 starts to come into play. Remember, I told you that $3,500. So in our contract, what we did, and with the lender, we got you some down payment assistance because you're first time home buyer and they had a program for that, right? So they got you down payment assistance. Groovy, right? We wrote the offer so that way the seller is helping you pay your closing costs. So now you don't have to pay your closing costs. Awesome sauce, right? That's brilliant. Okay. So where's this $3,500? Why is that there? All right. So you've got a house that you're purchasing $250, which is, a nice start for first-time home buyers, $250. Within the first 3 days, you're going to need to put something called escrow down or a binder down. This is showing the seller, I really mean business and I want this house, right? It is sort of like a down payment, all right? And that's why I think people get the down payment mixed up with this. This is not down payment. This is just, hey, I'm going to put money into a third-party account to show the seller that I mean business. Now, that money can be applied out to your closing costs at the end, right? So you can get it back as a credit. So that's being taken care of, right? So first 3 days, what is your binder fee? It's typically 1% of the loan or the purchase price. So if it's a $250, you're going to put down $2,500 right off the bat. First 3 days, $2,500. Depending on the house, depends on what kind of inspections you might want and need. All right. And that also depends on what kind of loan you've gotten. If you've got a VA loan, you're going to have, a wood destroying organism inspection. You're going to need, if they have a septic tank, you're going to need to have a septic inspection. If they have a well, you're going to need a well inspection. You're going to need to have a general inspection done, right? So there's these inspections that need to be done. If it's a mobile home, you're going to have an engineer report done to check the hurricane ties underneath the mobile home. These cost money and these are out-of-pocket expenses. All right. Beth, if you're still on, make sure that I'm right on this one and it's not changed. I don't think it has because my buyers have been paying about this much, but Beth's husband is an inspector as well. It's about anywhere from $500 to $600, right? $500 to $600. Hey, Chad. Hey, Edna. Hey, Jamie. So it's about $500 or $600 per inspection. So say you have a block home. It doesn't have a septic. It doesn't have a well, right? You don't have VA. And there's no reason to believe that there are termites, right? Because it's a block home, right? Doesn't mean that termites can't be in a block home, but so you're going to just use a regular, just general inspection, what we call a 4-point and wind mitt. 4-point is looking at the structure of the house, right? It is the foundation, the electrical, the plumbing, the roof, right? And wind mitt has to do with, wind mitts, by the way, don't happen on mobile homes. Wind mitts only happen on single family residences, because mobile homes don't have attics and a wind is going to look inside the attic. So you would have those type of inspections done, and that inspection would cost you about $500 or $600. Okay. So now you've spent 3,100, 3,100 because all you had was just one inspection, right? The next thing that you might have to pay out of pocket for, and again, it depends on the lender, because sometimes lenders will pay for the appraisal up front for you. And sometimes lenders will make you pay it yourself out of pocket before it even closes. All right. So ask your lender whether or not they're going to have the appraisal out of your pocket, or is it something that it's getting wrapped up into your closing costs, right? That question. Because the appraisal could also run anywhere from $500 to $600. Some appraisals run closer to $1,000. Just depends, right? Who does them? So you've got an appraisal that has to be paid for. The first 3 days is when you put the $2,500 down. The first 10 to 15 days is when you would pay for your inspections and negotiate any repairs. All right. So we've paid for our inspection, and they found that, yep, we need a new roof. So during that time period, we would negotiate with the seller to put on a new roof, right? What do we need to do in order to get that taken care of? Because there's certain things that are found in an inspection that will stop insurance, and that will stop your loan. All right. Roof is one of them. Insurance does not like to cover a roof that's older than 10 years. I know, sellers, I hear you, but my roof was guaranteed for 30. I know, but we had hurricanes, right? And those hurricanes have done stuff to your roof. So now we have to go get a new roof, right? So we're going to negotiate a new roof. The buyers, going to negotiate with the sellers. And when I say the buyers and sellers are negotiating, really what it is if I'm representing you and you're my buyer, I am going to talk to the listing agent. And the listing agent and I are going to go back and forth until we find something that works for everybody. It's not a winning thing. We're not competing against each other. We're not trying to one up each other. Oh, I got them to pay for blah, 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 blah. No. What we're trying to do is get you closing table happy, right? Doesn't always happen, but we're doing our best to work together so all parties involved get what they want. Sellers want the house sold for X amount of money in their pockets. Buyers want to buy a house for X amount of money and know that certain things are taken care of, right? So we're negotiating those things. That's going to happen during the first. Sometimes we only have 7 days for inspection, 7 to 15 days, right? We're going to do all of that. Okay. After that, that's when your survey and your appraisal get done. That's when any repairs that we negotiated, those would get done unless it's a credit. Like if we give you a credit, say my buyers asked for light bulbs. I've never had anybody ask me for light bulbs, but just say that they did, right? All the light bulbs are out. So the seller goes, you know what? We're going to give you $50 and you can go get a pack of light bulbs at the end. Cool beans. So at the end, they get their light bulbs, right? So sometimes we would just negotiate credits. So that way, when you take ownership, you can do the things that you want to do. Once we have cleared survey and appraisal, by the way, is coming out and saying, okay, this house is worth the amount of money that you're getting a loan for. If for whatever reason the appraisal comes back low, we have to negotiate. We have to figure it out, right? And like I said last Tuesday, now that I've gone through a little bit of like the renovation loan trainings, I now see that there's a way to like flip FHA to a renovation loan, and we could bump up that appraisal through those methods. That's why I go to classes, guys. I know you guys call me and you're like, why is she always in training? Why am I always in training? Because, dude, there's all kinds of stuff to learn just to help you. So if I didn't go to all these trainings, I wouldn't be able to help you. Now I know that. We can get past appraisal now. And I'm stupid excited about that one. Right? So once we get you through the appraisal part of it, all right, you're over the appraisal part of it. What we're going to look for now is for underwriting and lending. to give you a clear to close. And one of the last steps before we get it clear to close is that insurance. We're going to bind your insurance. We're going to find and bind. Bind your insurance just means that it's definitely you've purchased it. I don't know why we use bind. If anybody in the insurance, tell me why we say bind, because I just say it because I know that that's what we do, but I don't know the reason why. And my little brain that loves to figure out why we say things is very curious about that. So my insurance peeps, in the comments below, let me know, why do we say bind? That's interesting. Anyways, words are fascinating to me, guys. Leave me alone, all right? So we're gonna find and we're gonna bind your insurance, so that way your lender knows that their asset is protected, right? Whatever the house is protected. That's why they want you to have insurance before they give you the loan. They want to know that it's protected. So once we've gotten your insurance and you've gone through underwriting and you've cleared all of that, and they can ask you for all kinds of documents. So who knows how long it's taking it out of that. But they've gotten you all kinds of things. Hey, Marshall. They've run all your credit, and now they're going to issue something called a clear to close. All right. And in a clear to close, that means they're going to send a title package over to title, which is that third party account that we had put our money in the very beginning, right? Title, by the way, through this whole time, they weren't just the bank account holding still. They're running title searches. They're making sure that the seller could legally sell that property. They're making sure that there's no liens on that property, because you don't want to take ownership of that and find out that somebody could take it away from you, right? Because the owner before owed money. So we want to make sure that all the liens have been cleared. We call it clearing the clouds. Title is going to clear the clouds. They're going to make sure that it's a blue sky for you to buy that house, right? So during this time, title has been doing all this information. They've been, they're the ones that ordered the survey. They did all that good jazz, right? So once we get you clear to close, title gets a package from lending, and they start balancing with lending, making sure everybody's got the right numbers, right? Everybody's turned in the addendums. The invoices for the repairs have been turned in. Everybody has agreed upon all of these numbers. And then they're going to schedule your closing. And that's my favorite thing. When I get a clear to close, like that's when you see me on social media, like dancing to Kool and the Gang, because that's my clear to close song. Celebrate good times, come out. Yeah, that song. And I know I will never sing in front of you again. Okay. But Patsy, because it is legally binding contract. Is that why? Because the insurance binds the loan? That makes sense to me then. That makes sense. All right. Look, those of you that had me as an English teacher, you know the love that I have for etymology. Where did a word come from? Why do we use that word? Was it something that started during a play, right? There's so many cool little words that go on, and the English language fascinates me. The words that we choose to use within different time periods fascinate me. I love that kind of stuff. Like, it's just so cool to me. So binding, that would make sense. I get it, because it's, when we put in escrow, we also call it a binder because it binds the contract. But I also wondered, insurance-wise, why do we call it binding the insurance? So that's cool. Thanks, Patsy. But once we've gotten your clear to close, you're going to go sit at title, and they're going to have a bunch of paperwork for you to sign. I will be sitting there with you. Your lender can also be there if they so choose. So that way, if there's any questions during closing, we're both sitting next to you and we can answer anything that you need answered, right? Once you've signed, seller has signed, you get keys. You have now taken ownership. All right. Congratulations, you're a homeowner. But that's the whole general view of everything. And it seems like, running through it very fast, it seems like, okay, that's just an easy process. Da, 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 da. It's different for everybody, and it's different for every house. The inspection report could come back with something major wrong. And so that's why you have your realtor there to be able to negotiate what you need to happen in order to feel good in that home, right? But again, this isn't about beating somebody or competing against people. This is about negotiating so you both get what you want, right? Seller and buyer both get what they want. So I enjoy when I work with other realtors that absolutely know that, and that's the way they negotiate. Um, yes, there are some realtors that do not negotiate that way, and that's okay. That's okay. That's who they are. That's fine. That's just not who I am, right? My whole thing is let me negotiate so that way it's a win-win situation. Maybe that's because I was a teacher for so many years. I don't know. But the high level view of buying a house is just that. But it is a very personal thing, and there are things that you have that will make your process maybe a little slightly different, right? But the only way that we know is to sit down and talk about it, see if it's time for you to do such. I know a lot of people feel like they can't afford it. And right now, with rent prices the way they are as well, like it's kind of, a give and take. I don't like renting, and I will tell you why I don't like renting. I have too many people come up to me and say, "Hey, I need you to find me a house in like 30 days." Whew. It takes us 30 days just to get through from contract to close, right? That we do it's a 30-day close. So that's a tall order, right? I don't we can try, but the reason why they come to me and they tell me I've got 30 days is because whoever owned their rental has now decided to sell their rental. So now they have no place to live. I do not like that type of instability. That does not make my anxiety-riddled heart feel good. So I absolutely prefer owning a home. And if that's something that we can get done for you, I'd rather you have that stability. I'd rather you know that nobody can sell that house out from underneath you as long as you're making those payments, right? And the equity that builds in that property is yours. You can borrow off of it if you needed to. If there was an emergency, if there was a medical problem, you have a property that you can borrow against now. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. So that's why I do advocate this. I know that it's my job, and people are like, oh, realtor, salesperson, go check my history first. All right. Before you give me that, go check my history first and go talk to all my former students. Go talk to my friends. Go talk to my family, and they will tell you my heart is always about people. So when I tell you I think it's better for you to own than rent, it's not because I just want to sell you something. It is because I honestly, truly believe it. All right. I honestly, truly believe that it is better. Now, is it best for everybody? No, that's why we have to talk about it. It might not be, you might be a traveling nurse. It might not be the time for you, right? You're living life, traveling all over the place. I know that's a hard job, but you're seeing some cool stuff, right? It doesn't make sense for you to have a house yet. Might make sense for you to do short-term rentals right now. Okay, let's figure that out. So, if you are in the market, you're tipping that toe in like, am I ready? Is it time? If you don't want to talk to me, scan the QR code. Okay? You can take the test. You can figure it out. Or you can just call me. Give me a call. DM me, whatever you need to do, and we'll talk about it, all right? I will hold you I will not make you buy a house unless you want to. All right, my lovelies. All right, my lovelies. Okay. Until next week. Next week, I do believe I have a business owner coming on. I'm pretty sure I do, but I don't have my calendar in front of me. So, next week, you'll see another Lakeland business owner, and we will get to know them. And as always, remember, be happy, be safe, and know that I love you. Because if people can hate for no reason, I can love you for no reason. All right, my lovelies? All right, my lovelies. Until next week.